Hey guys, thank you for taking time to listen to the podcast this week.
I'm Madison.
And I'm Moriah.
And this is Coenology, where my parents come on here every week and talk about everyday life and let everyone know our business.
And this week we're hacking the podcast and telling a little bit of our story. We hope you enjoy. So hold on to your hats, wigs, and weaves, everybody. We taking off.
The first thing we kind of want to dive into is how we got to Lee, like how God called us to Lee. I definitely feel like I was called to Lee. I was going to college in Brunswick, and I just knew it wasn't what God had for me, but I didn't know what God had for me at the time. I got an email from Lee University, but I didn't really think a lot about it. I got the email. Now that I think about it, it literally was just God answering prayers, because I prayed, and I was like, Lord, please show me what door you want me to go through. Close the ones you don't want me to walk through. And then I got that email, and really didn't think anything about it. My parents went to Cleveland and took pictures of the campus. It was beautiful. They sent them to me, and they didn't even know that I had gotten this email. I don't even think to this day they know I got an email. But I just knew, I was like, okay, I got to go to Lee. I got to try anyway. And so I think it was either that night or the next day I applied without telling anyone. I did not tell anyone because I didn't think I was going to get in. And I think it was a couple of months before I heard anything. I had no emails, no letters, nothing from Lee, so I assumed I wasn't going. And it was a Wednesday night. It was November 23rd, I believe. I think, anyways. Maybe it was the 25th. I don't know. Whatever that Wednesday was of that week, I got to church, and my mom said, Maddy, I have something for you. And I was like, oh, my Lord, what? And she was like, handing me this letter, and I was like, Mom. And then she was recording, and I was like, I knew I got in, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I really didn't think I was going to. The Lord definitely moved mountains for me to get there, from the acceptance letter to being able to afford it and all of those things. So that's kind of how I got to Lee. It was definitely a God thing, because without God, I wouldn't be there right now. So
yeah, mine's kind of similar, but my journey starts 2 years previous to going this spring. So it started in 21, the fall of 21. Me and my parents, I was in a transitional time in my life, and I was kind of alone, and I was at community college, and it was kind of time for me to take that next step and go to a 4-year, and my dad is an alumni at Lee, and it was a thought in the back of my mind. And I pushed and pushed for my parents to think about touring. And, one of their requirements anyway for me to go to a 4-year was to tour. And so that's what I did. I booked a tour. We toured, and it was amazing. The tour was amazing. I absolutely loved the campus, and I just fell in love with it. My parents loved the campus as well, and they fell in love with it as well. And so afterwards, we went to Outback, and we had to have a discussion about it, because that was a big decision to go to a 4-year, and finances are a big part in going to a big 4-year like that. You really have to discuss that kind of thing, and so that's what we did. We went to Outback, I'll never forget it, and we sat down, and we really all just kind of poured our hearts out and our thoughts on me going to Lee. And my mom was definitely more for it, but my dad just kept saying he doesn't feel like it was the right time. Not to say that I was never going to go to Lee, but that the fall of 21 was just not the time for me. And that I was going to miss something, a move of God that I didn't need to miss in our hometown. And he was right. We had an amazing outpouring of the Holy Ghost, and, a lot of things in my life changed. I lost and let go of things that I needed to let go of, and, I'll forever be grateful for that period of time. I got an amazing job at that point in the spring of 2022. I got an amazing job, and it really helped me and gave me so much life experience and created so many good people and influences in my life. And from there, the fall of 2022, I knew it after I think it was 4 or 5 months of working at the dental office that I worked at, I just knew that that was not what I was going to do forever. So I had another sit down with my parents that fall, and I really just kind of poured my heart out and my thoughts, and, both of them listened to me, and, they really just heard what I had to say, and the first thing that we did was we prayed. We all took time and we prayed, and we all kind of felt like the green light was good, like it was a green light. It was ready to go. So I applied to leave. And a couple weeks later, I got the acceptance letter, and it was October, and I'll never forget that day. I knew I got in. Like, I knew the minute, because it literally said on the paper, like, something about congratulations or something. I was like, okay, well, thanks for ruining the surprise. What we want to talk about next is the next phase in getting accepted is being a student. And not only being a student, but being a transfer student. And what that kind of looks like. And not just what that looks like in general, but as a spring transfer. Because at Lee, that's two different things. Being a fall transfer and a spring transfer is definitely two different things. And it looks very different.
Well, from what we can tell, like, we've only done a spring semester transfer, but like in the fall it's a lot more
compacted with things.
A lot of things going on. Like every single day they're having a party, or they're having a cookout, or they're having some kind of get together. In the spring, it's not really like that.
We have like 1 or 2 get-togethers, and they try to get us as much involved in the spring, but for our transfer group, it just wasn't, as far as the spring goes, we just didn't have a lot of things.
But I will say it showed us how to lean on each other.
Yeah. It not only taught us how to lean on each other, but it brought people in our lives that we could lean on.
Yeah.
It introduced us to people that I feel that we'll be friends for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So.
It's definitely, brought us a family that we didn't know we needed.
Yeah.
And I think I'll forever be grateful for that.
Yeah. I'll never forget, my first week, we can talk a little bit about this maybe, about our first week as a student, as a spring transfer student.
It was rough.
It was a rough week. For me, I feel like it was 2 months of things. Not even, that week, yes, but, the first 2 months of me being at Lee were just really, really hard. I don't know about you, but for me, they were really hard.
I think it was the first couple of weeks. It was really bad for me. But we also, had different experience. I had a roommate. She didn't have a roommate. My roommate was actually in our transfer group, so we kind of knew each other a little bit because of that. But I will say, the first 2 weeks were hard. I cried every day.
Yeah.
And it's just, whenever you're taken out of your comfort zone and moved to be uncomfortable, it's hard at first. But that's when you grow to things that you never thought possible.
Yeah. And you learn to rely on the Lord like you never thought you could or would ever be able to. And for me, God had, which we talked about last week, just kind of break us down, crush us, and make us, start creating us again and molding us again, into what He wants us to be. And I think that that's something that I definitely learned in the spring was that. And it was hard. It's a hard thing to be broken down, and pretty much start over again.
It was hard. I will say, though, we've gotten through the semester, so being on the other side of it, I'm so grateful for even the lowest of the lows that we went through, because it taught us so many lessons. It allowed us to lean on the Lord in ways that we didn't know we could, and strengthen our faith even in the midst of the storm. Yeah. And I know that we have come out on the other side.
Yeah.
And not to say next semester is not going to be hard, but it's going to be hard in a good way.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be easier in a lot of ways, because we have a good foundation of friends now.
And you're living together,
yes.
So we can lean on each other in ways that we weren't able to. I mean, I surely did move in with you for a good 2 months, but...
Yeah.
I mean, not legally. So,
legally.
not legally. They didn't know.
Yeah, but yeah, it was definitely an experience to be at Lee for the first time and be a first-time student. And for me, it was my first time living on my own. And for you, you had already kind of lived on your own in a sense here in Brunswick. And so, we had two different experiences, but, we still both were away from home. Like, we didn't have our people.
I was far, far away from home. Yeah. Like, I got to see my parents one time the whole semester. Like, both sets of my parents. And so that was hard for me, and you were able to go home a good bit, so that was good for you.
Yeah, if I wasn't able to go home, I don't think I would have survived, because the devil surely was trying to attack on all fronts.
Yeah, he was.
But
and speaking of that, speaking of our first week being hard, we got moved in on Saturday, and then on Wednesday, we auditioned for campus choir. So, in our little transfer group, I think we kind of talked about this last week on the podcast, but Moriah came and sat with me. She was my first ever friend at Lee. And look where we're at now. That's just funny. But she was my first ever friend. Yeah, we have come a long way, praise the Lord. But I was going to audition for campus choir because I just felt the Lord called me to choir. I looked at a bunch of different ensembles, like Lee Singers, EVS. They're all amazing. But I just felt the Lord called me to campus choir. And I was like, Moriah, please audition with me. Like, I did not want to do it by myself. Stuff like that usually scares me. And she was like, okay. So we auditioned on Wednesday, and it was like 20 minutes. Like, I auditioned first, and then she auditioned right behind me. What we didn't realize until after our audition was we did the same song. That was I think we kind of hit on that last week. That was a whole, okay, girl. But anyways, after that, our story started to change a little bit.
Yeah.
I stayed in choir. I didn't feel the Lord released me. I stayed in choir. And I'm really grateful I did. I learned a lot, but I was also put through a lot.
Yeah. For me, the first day of choir was very telling of what my experience was going to be in choir for this semester in particular, because my semester was really hard. Like, I just didn't realize how hard it was going to be away from my parents. It was very much a different experience, and I'm very thankful for the experience, because if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never leaned on God like I had to, It showed me how strong I needed to be, and now I am in the Lord, and I feel like that's going to help me in the future and forever. This experience is going to help me in the future, and, back to my campus choir, experience, we auditioned, Maddy kind of touched on it, we auditioned, and, from there it was just a whirlwind, and, we both had a really rough first week. Maddy said she cried the whole first week, and I did the same thing. Except for I was crying, but I also was on the phone with my parents and my boyfriend the whole time. I was still holding on to my life, and I did that for the first 2 months of being away at school at Lee. I held on to my life in Scottsboro when God was telling me to let go and, be.
I'm sure we hear my mom talk about that all the time, but it's so true.
Yeah, just be. And I had to learn the hard way to just be at Lee and experience Lee for what it is. I held on, and I needed to let go. And once I let go and let God, my life changed. And Maddy can attest to it too, as far as our lives started changing though. Once I let go of the things that I was holding on to, my life just took off like a rocket. Yeah. And our whole transfer group, we all had these bumps in the road.
Within a week, we all just submitted to what the Lord had for us and surrendered. And that week, things started shifting. Some pieces started falling into place. I don't even know how to explain it. In our lives, in their lives, in our lives together, some of the things that the Lord has done to us and through us, I don't even know how to start explaining.
Yeah.
Like, once you submit to the Lord and submit what He has for you, and you're in the perfect will of God, there's nothing that you can't do without Him. And the things that you thought you were going to accomplish in life, He already has so many greater things planned for you. And we're just now knocking on some of those things. Like, I'm going to Israel in 4 weeks, and that's mind-blowing. Like, what? Which is kind of crazy, because for my graduation, I was going to go on Israel, like my high school graduation, I was going to go to Israel, and it just never seemed to work out. I get in campus choir, and we're going to Israel, and we're singing on the Sea of Galilee, and we're going to be baptized in the Jordan River, and walk in the garden, all of these things. And I'm like, wow, Lord, you took my desire to go to Israel, and you made it so much more than what I even could have imagined. And that's just a small thing that He did. And so I cannot wait to see all of the things that God does in our lives.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited to see what all He has for us.
Speaking of what God is doing in our lives, we both, I think I can speak for both of us, we have both had crazy spiritual transformations, even in the just 4 months that we've been at Lee. And one of the things that comes with that is spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
And boy, did we face some spiritual warfare this semester.
Yeah, we definitely did. And it started pretty much on day one.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I dealt with, loneliness, depression, anxiety. Being by myself was very difficult, because for me, I didn't have a roommate. I had a suite mate, but I didn't have a roommate. And
that's hard.
It was hard. Every night I would come home, and I was by myself in my room, and it was hard. I mean, being alone, like, I didn't have anybody to talk to for the first 2 months of college. My first experience at college, I was pretty much alone, and that took a toll on me. And, depression and anxiety really creeped in and really kind of settled in for a good 2 months. And it affected my life, at home when I would go home on the weekends. It affected, my everyday life with the people that I was around. And thank the Lord that, that is no longer who I am anymore. And those are not things that I struggle with anymore. But for a while there, I really struggled with that.
Yeah, I kind of have a little bit of a different spiritual warfare. I didn't really struggle with depression. I did struggle with anxiety and loneliness, though. I've always been an anxious person, but thankfully the Lord has started removing that from my life, and the loneliness did set in, but I was just like, But I didn't, I had a roommate, so I had someone to talk to and someone to dish out at the end of the night and all of the crazy things we were experiencing all together. And, but I will say, when the Lord started coming in my life, like I had never experienced before, when I put myself in that position and completely surrendered to the Lord, He started revealing things to me, and it was kind of scary. I'll never forget, we had a worship night, and something was just off. I was really fighting, in my spirit, and I was like, Lord, what is going on? Please show me what's going on. And He did. He showed me. I remember I left the worship thing, went and got in my car, and I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I don't know what to do. And she was like, just start praying. So I did. And I prayed and prayed and prayed for a couple of weeks. And it's the Lord would not let me forget what was revealed to me. I saw it on multiple occasions. I would think about it often, and it was just I couldn't not pray about it. I ended up talking to Moriah about it. She said that she was feeling the same things, and that's when I knew it was more than what I could comprehend.
Yeah.
It was multiple people, multiple occasions, and it was really over the whole campus.
Yeah.
And this was the week before the prayer visual thing, or whatever you want to call it, that happened at Lee.
We both kind of were dealing with things the week before the prayer vigil, which was the week that you had that, moment, at that worship service. I was not able to sleep the whole week before. Like, at night, I would sleep for a couple hours, wake up. Sleep for a couple hours, wake up. And that was happening. Like, I would sleep for, I think, a total of maybe 3 hours a night. And I was going to bed at a decent time, and I was trying to rest, and I was not resting. And one night, I had a moment myself. There was a demonic attack on me that night, and it wasn't good. And it just kind of, like, foreshadowed kind of things that Maddy had kind of seen as well, and what some of our other friends had kind of attested to as far as our campus. And it really, I feel like it brought us to a point where we were just praying so hard for our campus. Yeah. And for us. And not only were we having to pray, like, that's why we kind of wanted to talk about, spiritual transformation and specifically just attacks that we were getting, because it wasn't just on our campus, but we were getting attacked individually. Yeah. And individually in our walk, it was really rough at that point. Yeah, I remember I called Moriah and I was like, Moriah, I can't sleep. And this was like kind of before I moved in, and she was like, you can come over. But it started to like consume my mind almost. And it was all I thought about. It was all I, dreamt. I would have dreams about it. When I could sleep, when I couldn't sleep, I would be up thinking about it. It really started to take over my mind, and it was really affecting me just because of the things I had saw, the things I had, witnessed, encountered, and what started in that room went around the campus. I would, see things walk into class. I would see things walking out of class. If I heard a certain voice, it really started to kind of, take over. And I really had to start praying. I didn't live in fear, but I was nervous to encounter it again because of what happened previously. And we really started praying. We started praying for each other. We grabbed some anointing oil. We anointed the choir room. We started praying for our campus. That was the same night that a couple of people from choir got together and went around and prayed for every single building on the campus. I think we walked 10 miles that night, but we prayed for every building on the campus. We prayed for the chapels, the teachers, professors, students, and then it really started. The warfare that the devil was trying to destroy the things that God was doing in our lives. Yeah. And it increased after the prayer vigil, whatever you want to call it, was over. Once it was over, it just went to us individually. Yeah. And individually, we started dealing with things in our own life, and that was really hard. And at this point, this is what, February? This was mid-February when this was happening. It was around was it after convocation or was it?
I think it was after.
Okay, so it was after convocation, so it was the end of February when this was going on, and that's kind of when my life started.
And we were still at a point in our friendship that we weren't, we were nervous to talk about it because, I didn't want to scare you off or you, vice versa. So it was really hard, and that's when I started to lean on my sweet mate because she was dealing with the same things, and it was no one in our room could sleep. We were tossing and turning, and then I was like, Moriah, I gotta talk to you about this, because she was my best friend while we were there, and she still is, but it was just hard to deal with, especially when you feel like you're by yourself.
Yeah. For me, it was very hard, because I was alone. I didn't have anybody to, talk to about this, and it wasn't that I couldn't go to Maddy. It was just I was at night, when I was going home to my apartment, I was alone. It was just me, and I would call my mom, or I would talk to my boyfriend at the time, but they couldn't understand. Now my mama has some discernment, and she knew. She could feel it through the phone. She was feeling it during the week, and she would talk to me about it. thankfully I have a praying mama, because I wouldn't have made it through that time without her. To even go into a different topic, that those moments, those breaking points, brought us to a time where we started relying on God's word.
Yeah.
And that was really something that really and truly is the answer. It's the answer to everything. It's the answer to your spiritual warfare, is to rely on God's word. Really, really read it for yourself. And for me, at that point, I had never truly, I had read the Bible, and I've done Bible studies, but I've never read it like I needed to read it.
Yeah.
And we touched on that last week, but we really, truly, I started getting into my word. And God, I said this last week, but God brought me to Psalms. And I started breaking down Psalms. And God just over and over and over again was continuing to speak to me through Psalms. And, I told Maddy, I read her a couple of the times that I would, go into my Bible just on my daily reading. God just spoke to me then.
Yeah.
In those verses. And it's just really crazy and amazing, honestly, to see what God can do through just opening your Bible, reading His Word. And for me, I started journaling too. And I started kind of writing down things that I wanted from God and I needed from the Lord. And I also wrote down prayer requests, because for me, I'm a visual person. So for me to see it, but I didn't realize, a couple of weeks ago, I looked back and I started I have the date. I wrote the date down on when I started. And I looked back and it was in February. So it was February 17th or something. I can't remember when I first started. It was amazing to see the transformation in my journaling.
Yeah.
So I first started off with just writing down things that stuck out to me in the verses, to literally writing down a paragraph at the top of what I needed and wanted from God and what I want my walk to be like, and then things that just really spoke to me and stuck out, because I want to be able to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
And then I would write on the back of the paper, and my prayer request list was all the way almost to the bottom at this point now, because I just continue, because I feel like that is something as Christians, the first thing I pray for is not myself.
Yeah.
It's for the people that I love, for the people that I care about, and those are the people that I pray for first. And so, just doing those things broke down so many walls in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but that's what it did for me.
Yeah, I was the same way. Yes, we've read the Bible PKs, and so, read the Bible in the womb. And so, but I'd never read it for me and for my relationship with the Lord. And that's truly the way that He speaks to us. And I will never forget, opening my word and reading it for the very first time. And I was reading it through a new lens. I had never, read the Bible and, read the word that was being spoken to me through the Bible. And whenever we started to break down and really dive into what the Lord was saying and says in the words on the page, He started speaking to us, and I don't even know how to explain, in the shower. I would get out of the shower and be like, the Lord has spoken, and He needs our yes, and He just wants our yes. And we would go, and then Moriah would be like, hold on, the Lord told me to go to Psalms 120, and that was a whole thing in itself. Yeah. And so really diving into the Word was the best decision that we made for each other. And my life is forever changed by that. I don't think there will ever be a time where I don't go to the Word first. Yeah. And that is something, people say all the time, if you need something, go to the Word. If you need to talk to the Lord, go to the Word and go to the Word. But I never took that and ran with it until now. And now I see, my eyes are open to something completely new. And it's almost like anything that we're going through, the Lord, everything that we're going through, the Lord has already spoken about it. And He's the author and finisher of our faith. He already knows everything we're going to go through. Yeah. And He already knows everything that we're going to walk through and the trials we're going to have. But He's already given us something that we can turn to. He gives us the answers that we need, even when we feel like we don't have the answers to turn to. And so Bible journaling has definitely been a part. Now, I journal a little different than Moriah, which you have to do it personalized, but I do it in my Bible so that when I go back and read it, it's all there, and I don't have like a different book or whatever. But
mine's more about my OCD. I have a Bible though that I actually purchased a Bible that I can write in, but still, I'm afraid to write. I don't know. It's just for me, it's an OCD thing. I like my journal and my Bible. Two separate things. I mean, but I highlight in my Bible. Yeah. I will say that. But this Bible is old, so I do that. Yeah.
So I use sticky notes. Love sticky notes. Post-its, my favorite thing ever. But I have like 100 different kinds, and that's really what I use. I'll highlight if I have a word that I want to dig into. I'll like write that word on the sticky note and put it at the top of the page. If I find a definition, like that's really how I dive into the word and then remember the things that I'm learning. And so that's something that we both have grown tremendously in. And if it wasn't for everything that we've walked through, I don't know if we would have really turned to the word like we have.
God had to definitely break us down, literally to sand, for us to get into His Word and that's how it has to be sometimes. He really does have to literally break us down to nothing, which to mold us back to something.
It really has, like, I don't know how to really word it, but Moriah and I have kind of like led our group in like the spiritual aspect of it. We do like individual Bibles, journaling, and then we do like corporate, where like we'll get together and we'll do it together, or Moriah and I will go and do it together. But we've really just learned to lean on the Lord in so many different ways since we've been at Lee.
It's been an amazing thing to experience, I feel like, and I'm very thankful that even though it was hard, we've come out on the other side, and I believe that I'm a totally different person than when I walked into that campus 4 months ago.
100%. I agree.
So, to end on a lighter note, we want to kind of tell some of the funny things that happened to us while we were on campus. So, one of the first things that kind of happened to us that kind of kick-started our friendship was Maddy moved in with me for the rest of the semester. That was super fun.
Not just, like, stay with her. Like, I picked up my everything and went to keep
like her
mattress
topper.
Yes.
She took that and she said, I'm taking it with me. Because, she lived with me pretty much during the week. And then on the weekends, if I went home and she had campus choir, like...
I even ended up going home with her. I love my family in Alabama.
Yeah, you came home twice.
Yeah. Both of our cars got hit.
Yep. Mine got hit and run, though. Somebody hit my car and didn't tell me.
Yeah, so good. We both got COVID.
Yeah, but that was the beginning of the semester. Yeah. We both got COVID. We weren't that close yet, but we did both get COVID.
We both ended up in the hospital.
Yeah, we both did. 2 separate times.
Don't recommend it.
Yeah, don't go to the hospital when you're in college on your first semester.
Yeah.
What else? I fell down the stairs, and hurt my ankle. That was super fun.
Oh my gosh, the whole basketball team was laughing at you.
I know. And then I was in a brace for a week. That was super fun.
So good. What else?
Lord, I don't know. We had so much happen to us, it all feels crazy.
I know.
I feel like there's more.
I can't believe that was...
Oh, I got broken up with. One of our other girls got broken up with. We just had a crazy semester.
One of our friends got her window busted out.
Yes, she did.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it just was a whirlwind of a semester, and these are just some of the moments that we thought were honestly funny. Looking back on them, they were funny. I mean, in the moment.
Oh my gosh, my car broke down.
Yes, her car broke down in the middle of the road when we had just started,
we were leaving what was it, IHOP?
Uh-huh.
No, we were going to IHOP.
Yes.
My car said, denied.
It stopped at
She stopped working. Yeah, in the middle of the intersection, she just cut off.
Yeah. And we did a bunch of crumble runs. A bunch of them.
Oh, yeah, crumble. We love
Too many crumble runs to think of. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, even though we had a lot of hardships this semester, we had a lot of fun times.
We had a lot of good memories.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening today, and thank you to Coenology for letting us hack.
I hope this episode has encouraged you in some way or spoke to you on a new level. I hope that it really encourages you to just get in your word and really seek after what the Lord has for you. Take a moment to follow Coenology on Facebook and visit the Coenology website at coenology.podbean.com.
But more importantly, share this with a friend. We hope and pray you have a blessed week.
Bye guys.